Welcome, everyone, to Recruiter on Call with Jobs. We switched from Clubhouse, trying it out on Restream today, so we'll see how this goes. Happy to have Matt Lewinsman with me today. Matt, where are you from?
I am from Iowa. I currently sit on the West Coast, north of Seattle.
All right. And I'm chiming in from Pennsylvania. Um, so, how long have you been a recruiter?
9 years.
Wow. What got you interested in that?
I was in sales, working for all of the wrong companies that have those fun products that when you get hired and they want you to sell it, you're not sure if it actually does what they tell you it's going to do or not. Um, and so I really got tired of it because it's the same type of company that gives you like 2.5 days of training and then says have fun. And if by day 90 you're not killing it, then they fire you and move on.
Mm.
And I got tired of playing that game, and I'm not really a sales guy. And so I went, what can I do that's, got an element of sales, but my only thing isn't sales. And I started thinking, oh, recruiting, like there's gotta be, there's some sales there, but it's not fully, that's all I'm ever doing is trying to sell somebody a product, right? And so I applied for a few jobs, and a couple months later, a big company local to me in Denver called me and said, you want to come be a recruiter? And I said, yeah, actually, that sounds great. And 9 years later, here I still am.
Wow. So you just kind of fell into it at that point in
I,
time. That's
I
great.
did. I mean, recruiting is not something that, I don't think any child's ever said, I want to be a recruiter when I grow up, right?
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Yeah. So, tell us about your company and what it is that you specialize in.
Yeah, so I work nationwide, first of all, but I focus on the startup to mid-size space, which I define as 1 to 200-ish employees. So I really focused on that small business space because they don't have all of the fun money that the Fortune 500 companies have to pay that 30% fee every time that they need to hire someone, right? And they're not big enough yet to have their own internal team either, and take on that expense. So I want to be that support to those growing companies that they've run out of friends and family to hire, right? And they're going, crap, we need somebody that we don't know. I want to come in and be that resource for them. And as far as the types of roles that I support, I'm pretty wide ranging, honestly. I started my career in the IT and engineering space, which in and of itself is very broad. Um, and then I also have a lot of professional services experience. So basically, white collar people, right? So um, office administrators, office managers, finance, salespeople, HR people, operations people, anybody who kind of works at a desk essentially um, is where I play.
Gotcha. So, just to let you know, we're having a major thunderstorm here, and we
Oh,
just got our emergency warning coming in on my phone. So, if this goes kaput, we may have to pick up and do this again another time if, like, I lose internet and all that other good stuff. So,
no
it'll be
worries.
what it'll be.
If you
Weather
disappear,
pending.
then if you disappear, then I'll know.
Yeah, then you'll know. Absolutely. So, it's pretty weird world out there in the job world, isn't there? Right
It
now?
is. It is the weirdest market that I've ever seen, by far.
Well, so um tell me about the trends or changes you're seeing in the hiring landscape. What's happening out there?
Well, the first thing that I'm gonna call out is that right now, if you're a job seeker, applying online unless you've been told to by someone who works there and is referring you is a complete and utter waste of your time. Um, the most recent numbers that I've seen, and this is March numbers, I think, but they're still holding true, is roughly 90% of people who are getting hired right now are being hired because they were referred. So somebody at the company said, hey, you should talk to this person. Or in the weird case that the recruiter had to do outreach, right? The recruiter found them, which leaves less than 10% of people who are getting hired being those who applied online, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard to get hired if you're not being seen. Which is the other thing that's going on, right? Is there's so many people unemployed. I'm not fully confident in this number, so take it with a grain of salt. But I told somebody a couple of weeks ago that there's probably somewhere between 50 and 500 people that are unemployed for every job opening that's out there right now.
Oh my God. That's a
And
huge amount.
so when you look at those numbers, and I've played in this field again for 9 years, is that when there's this type of unemployment, job seekers generally, and I'm broad brushstroking here, so don't take offense to this if you actually read the full job description, but most job seekers are going to read the title, the location, the money, and maybe the first and second sentence of a job ad before they decide if they're going to hit that apply button and submit the resume or not, right? So you're getting, I just saw a post this morning, somebody posted a job and in 3 days they had 500 resumes.
Oh my God, that's a huge amount of resumes.
It's a ton.
It's
And they're not
like the same or worse than during the pandemic when, like, there were 40 million people unemployed in what was it, April of 2020. And like when jobs became available, it was like vultures, right?
yeah, it's kind of the
Same
same
kind of
thing.
thing.
It's kind of
Yeah.
the same thing. I still think back then it was easier to get hired by applying online, because this trend of needing to be referred I didn't notice it till like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So like beginning of 23 or so, end of 22, beginning of 23, because that's when all of the layoffs started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Greg, I see
networking
your
is
comment.
key. That's what I tell people.
Yeah.
Network.
Yeah.
It's
Greg.
not, what it's not who it's who knows you, right?
Yeah. Greg, I
Yeah.
see your comment. Yeah. It doesn't always take 3 days. That was just one example.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, what advice do you have for job seekers for crafting an effective resume that stands out?
Um, so there's essentially two types of employees, right? There are doers and there are achievers. You need to communicate that you're an achiever. So what do I mean by that? Right. So let's say that you're a people manager, and I've seen this resume, by the way. I'm not making this up, but they were a people manager. Their first bullet point on their resume underneath that job was that they managed people. I hope so. Your title was a people manager, right? So it's communicating. It has to be communicating your value, right? So I was having a conversation with a job seeker last week, and she shared her resume with me, and we were reviewing it, and I looked at it and I said, well, that bottom one, looks right, because she had communicated the type of time that she'd saved, the rework that she'd saved. And that's what I as a recruiter want to see, is what value are you offering, right? And that's what companies want to see. They don't want to know that, hey, I rewrote the playbook. Okay, cool. But what I want to know is, what did that accomplish, right? Because when I'm looking at a resume, I'm gonna spend 15 seconds looking for something that catches my eye, and if I don't see it, I'm moving on. So if you don't have those things, and this particular job seeker also had her really strong bullet points at the bottom of that experience. And I said, nope, put it at the top. Strongest bullets at the top, weakest ones at the bottom, right? So those are, I think, the first things that I would recommend. Don't worry about it. This whole ATS friendly thing, like throw that idea in the trash, because there's no such thing as an ATS friendly resume. Like, it just doesn't exist.
I'm going to disagree with you. If somebody takes a Canva template and, it's all fancy formatting and columns and colors and all kinds of stuff, that's not going to make it through an ATS. But if you have a left justified resume that's just, text, it will make it through an ATS system.
Well, sure,
Canva template.
But it'll still, the Canva will still make it through. It'll just be harder for it to parse, but it'll
Right.
make it. But yeah, to your point, like, don't get all crazy. Keep it simple. But most people aren't doing the thing that you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When I work with clients, they get 2 resumes from me. They get a pretty resume for humans and then a deconstructed one for the ATS that has like no formatting in it whatsoever. There's like 592 ATS systems according to one source that I have. So you never know which one you're going to get. So you're better off being prepared with the most, generic, boring, black and white, non-formatted resume that you can come up with. But so many people have all these fancy dancy formatting things going on and Canva documents and whatnot. And my experience has not been that those have not been successful.
Yeah, no, don't get all super fancy. But again, most people thankfully aren't doing that, so it won't cause you any problems. But
yeah,
yeah.
Linda's with me. She says, I'm going to disagree that, it's plain and simple. No text boxes, no tables, no columns, no icons, no color. I ditto that. Yeah. Hi,
Yeah.
Felipe. How you doing? I see a lot of people on here that I know. Okay, let's talk about LinkedIn and personal branding. Do you review LinkedIn profiles? And what's your overall take on what you see?
Yes, I do. If it's filled out, it's great. Your LinkedIn profile should read exactly like your resume does. Because a lot of times that's the first thing that I'm seeing. Even if I'm not, because I don't use LinkedIn Recruiter to find people, it's way too expensive. And the search functionality is bad. But, what I use is based on LinkedIn profiles. And if I pull you up and all I get is job titles, companies, and dates, but nothing else, I have nothing to go on.
No personality, right?
Well, right. And there's nothing telling me why it thinks you might be a good fit. Right.
Yeah.
So I have nothing to go on. Right. Like, sure, you might have all of your skills listed at the bottom, but I don't know where you got them. I don't know how you applied them. I don't know any of those things. And so I'm going to move on. So make sure that your LinkedIn is up to date as far as the content is concerned. I'm not as concerned, necessarily about the about me section. It's nice to have a little summary there, but if the rest of it is filled out, I can get what I need from there. And then, a lot of people will tell you, worry about your headline. For me personally, I'm not as concerned about that. I'm more concerned about the content of what's in your LinkedIn profile, because at the end of the day, you can give yourself whatever job title you want, right? But I'm more concerned about the skills and the experience that you have that match the job title that I'm trying to see if you fit. So the headline and the job titles are not as important for me as the content within your profile. That includes having an up-to-date picture, right? Semi recent, hopefully, would be
Yeah.
nice. That shows that you're kind of active on LinkedIn. Not that that's necessarily a make or a break. But again, if your LinkedIn isn't updated, it tells me that you're not investing any time in it, right? So those are my quick thoughts right off the top of my head.
All right. So Pavel's made a comment, something which is what I said, a boring resume. What about substance? Well, the deconstructed resume comes directly from the pretty resume for humans. It's just that it's deconstructed and it's boring black and white and has no formatting in it. So instead of a 2 or maybe a 3-page resume, it might be longer than that, and it doesn't matter. It's just for the bots to be able to take the information and parse it and put it in the fields of a database. So that's what I meant by boring resume, boring black and white. I believe in putting a pop of color in for humans. As humans, we do like little pops of color. And I like to see metrics in every single bullet point. So I have clients, I call it a little bit of a hate-love relationship. You'll hate working with me, but you'll love me in the end because I'm going to pull it all out of you because it's just too tough of a job market. You got to show how you helped a company make money, save time, improve processes. Like, what
Yep.
was your impact? You got to show how you moved mountains in the past, so it's projected you can move mountains in the future. So Matt, when you said, LinkedIn profile, just, companies, job titles, and dates, no, it's not enough. You got to tell more.
Because that's my first impression of you.
Yep.
I
Absolutely.
don't get, unless you're applying, I don't have a resume to start with.
Yep. That's right.
Because
Right.
if I have your resume, then I'm not looking at your LinkedIn profile, most likely, because I already have what I need, right? Like, it doesn't, I go from the LinkedIn profile to wanting a resume because, number one, I need something to officially submit if you work. But if I start with that, then I'm not going to go look at your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Um,
So what do you think?
Farah, I see your question. Again, for me, it's not about how active you are. Like, I don't really pay any attention to how often you're posting. So, when I make comments about making sure it's up to date, like if that means, once every 3 months you pop in there and make sure that everything's up to date, if that's all you need to do, that's perfectly fine.
Some people are introverts and they just don't feel comfortable posting on LinkedIn, but at least if
Yep.
they have an optimized profile, with the right keywords in the right places, that at least helps, right?
Yep, exactly.
So, what role does personal branding play in the hiring process, and how can candidates enhance their online presence?
Yeah, this is one of those things that I think is really a matter of personal opinion. As long as, again, if I'm looking at your profile and, there's things posted that make me pause, which again, I don't generally get into this kind of stuff, but I have been seeing a lot of job seekers that are putting things out there that make me kind of cringe. I know that the market is rough, but using LinkedIn like Facebook
Oh yeah.
is not the way to go. So, if you had a rough interview process and you want to share with people, right? Then that's okay, right? Because you're alerting people. And I very much appreciate job seekers that alert people to how a particular company is conducting their interview process and how they were treated, right? I think that's perfect. But to go on and just rant and whine and moan and groan and complain like keep it on Facebook, because there's a lot of people that will stalk you more than I probably do. I should probably, check out profiles more than I generally do, but I know that people like to use their social media in different ways.
Mhm.
And not every company is going to super care about what you do with it, as long as you're not, tearing down the company that you're working for, right?
Right,
Um,
right. Yeah, you never wanna burn bridges.
correct.
Maybe you had a
So,
bad experience, or you got fired, or you got a PIP or something
yeah,
like that. Move on. Just move on,
yeah, let it go.
and
Keep
yeah.
it to,
Be like
but
Elsa. That's it. Let it go.
right, let it go. And you can, if you want, share it on Facebook, but I know employers that look at Facebook profiles too.
Yeah.
So be careful where you share that stuff, because if you do too much of this complaining, it's you're gonna get that, you're gonna get that reputation, if you will, of
Absolutely.
constantly whining and complaining, and,
So
nobody wants that as part of their
people don't
organization.
realize there's something called a digital footprint. So,
Yep.
I have a lot of clients who are boomers like me. And I said, "You know what? Somewhere along the line, you probably put your college graduation date online. And if somebody really wanted to try hard enough to find it, dimes to donuts, they probably could. So, you want to play games, or do you want to just say, "Hey, I am who I am," right?
Yeah.
That's my perspective, but to each his own. Yes, ageism and age discrimination is, alive and well out there, but there is a digital footprint of anything negative that you put out there. Like, you know, uh, when you're in high school or college and you've got those little red cups in your hand, right? Um,
Yep.
yeah, those red cups? Yeah. So you don't want a trail of that on social media, especially when you're trying to find your first job, right?
Yep. It's not a good
So
look. I mean,
digital
everybody knows what
footprint.
happens in college, but you don't need to display it for everyone to
You
see.
don't need to display it. So, I have a high school intern here with me this month. So she's hearing this and she's smiling as I say this, because she starts at Boston College in August. All right. So, let's talk about interview preparation. How can excuse me, how can job seekers best prepare for interviews as a candidate that you will submit? And do you assist with any interview preparation?
Yeah, so I do. It's part of my standard process when I'm working with a client, as well as obviously a candidate. Um, you know, the best interview prep is understanding the company's culture, mission, vision, values, right? Um, because the soft skills are more important than anything else, because most things within reason, right, when we're looking at more nice to have skills, can be taught, right? So obviously there has to be a base foundation of skills. But most people are familiar with the STAR method, right? So the situation, the task, the action, and the result, right? um, that's how you should be preparing for interviews, because it gives you a clear structure, so you're not going to ramble, and it clearly communicates what the situation was, the task that you were assigned with, the action you took, and then the result, right? So this result can be multifaceted, because maybe the result was, I don't know, something simple, right? But then I encourage candidates to take it a step further. And so you have that initial result, but was there a ripple effect, right? So maybe the initial result was you saved 20 minutes on whatever process that you're doing. But the ripple effect, when everybody implemented what you did, is that everybody saved 20 minutes per process, and you do this process 10 times a week, right? So then the ripple effect was that cumulatively, the thing that you did saved the company this many hours every year, right? That's a huge deal. So
Yeah, that's
if
huge.
you know the ultimate end result of the thing that you're sharing, add that to the end of your answer, because number one, they're going to be impressed that you know, right? Because most people are like, well, this is what I know. And then they stop paying attention, right? They stop tracking what the ultimate result was of the thing that they did.
Although I don't do interview coaching, I did write a very comprehensive article that I just put in the chat about AI tools and interview tips, and there's like 49 soft skills, and there's lots of examples on star stories, because I actually had to do a couple of presentations on the topic. Again, even though I know interview coach, I still had to present on the topic, and hey, they were both paid, so I did a good job on the article. But you really gotta tell the story with those metrics. And I tell people, you need to prepare about 7 to 10 star stories for each interview. And then hopefully whatever question you're asked, you'll have something that you can come back and give a reasonable answer to.
Yep. Agreed. Only other thing I would add, and everybody should probably know this at this point, but I would also be prepared with 7 to 10 questions that you want to ask if you have enough time.
Absolutely. You should never, ever leave an interview. And oh my gosh, you could just pop that into ChatGPT. Here's the job description. I'm going for an interview as a job seeker. What question should I ask at the end? Boom. And in 10 seconds, you will have those questions so you can be prepared. So there's absolutely no excuse. Oh, the link is not in the chat window. Okay. So, interesting. If you go to greatcareers.org and you first have to click on a link before you can click on membership, or sorry, resources, like click on membership or something. I don't know. The button at the top of our website is funky for the resources tab, but click in the resources tab and there's interview resources, and you'll see a big article in there with AI in it. So maybe somebody else can put it in the chat. Or maybe I can ask Meryl to put it in or something. I don't know why my stuff is not going there. All right, hang on one second. Let me get recruiter. Whoops. I'm looking for the button here. Of course, can't find it when you need it. Okay, I'm putting it in another chat for Recruiter on Call with Jobs. So maybe somebody else can post that, Meryl or something like that. All right, let's continue talking about interviewing. Are there some common interview questions that candidates should be ready to answer?
Oh, there's always common ones, and there's always not so common ones, especially when the interviewers haven't actually been trained to interview. But the most common ones you're probably going to get is the famous "Tell me about yourself." Right? Everybody knows that one and hates it.
And we should not go back to kindergarten, right?
Yeah, please don't. I think the other one that always sticks out to me is the whole "What's your greatest weakness?" question. I think that's a silly one too. It doesn't. Everybody knows how to jigger that question, so
Yeah.
it's not really. You're not really helping figure anything out with that one. And then if you have the really forward person that's like, "Why should I hire you for this job?" That's always been one of my favorites, because it's not helpful. Like, I don't know what they expect to hear, what answer it is that they're looking for. Because I'm not sure that they even know what they're looking for when they ask those questions. Those are the biggest three that kind of come to mind. The other one that you'll often get, is they'll ask you what you know about the company, right? So in case the recruiter didn't prepare you before you go to your interview, and even if they did, you should always do your own research and find out things. And I always encourage people to try and find to dig in to the website and find something kind of obscure, right? Something that means a lot to you that maybe most other people would ignore. So it could be a transaction or something that they did 6 months ago, right? That maybe never hit the news, but it impressed you for some reason. It excited you because of what they were doing and who they were doing it with, right? So my recommendation is when they ask you what you know about their company, start with the things that draw you to want to work for that company. Because if you communicate that first, it's it also reaffirms why you want to work there, right? And it shows that you didn't just go, oh, well, you're a Fortune 500 company, so you do this, this, and that, and it's public knowledge for everyone that knows, right? But especially with these smaller companies who's doing most of the hiring right now, you're going to have to go do some research because you probably never heard of them before, right? So go figure out what is their culture like, what's their mission like, what's their values, what are they trying to accomplish, who are they trying to impact, and what have they done to do that, and what input might you have to keep moving it forward, right? Because just because they haven't done something doesn't mean you can't share an idea with them that you'd like to see done if you get on board.
Gotcha. Somebody put in the chat, what's the best and worst things you can do during an interview to not screw it up? Well, the first thing is, not being prepared. You have to prepare. If you think about it, if you want the first violin seat, you have to practice. If you want to be in the, NFL, you got to practice. So same thing. If you want the job and you go to an interview, you got to practice. Any other thoughts on that?
Show up prepared, dress appropriately, be confident, and know that it's okay to take time to process your answer before you start talking. We so often feel like, oh, well, they finished talking, so I have to start talking right now. No, take a second and think. It's okay. Nobody's going to jump down your throat for that. And if they do, run away screaming because you don't want to work for them, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that, and this is a broader thing to keep in mind is pay attention to how they treat you during the interview process, right? If it's pulling teeth to get feedback and it takes 3 weeks to get feedback for next steps, I pay very close attention to that, because if they're treating you like that as a candidate, what is that going to look like if you get hired and start working there, right? Virtual interviews, look, make sure you're in a quiet setting. Make sure you've tested your sound and your video and your audio beforehand so you know that it works. Still dress the part as if you were showing up in person. Although, frankly, if they're not going to see your bottoms, you do you there. Just make sure the part that they're going to see looks the part. But when I video interviewed at the beginning of the pandemic, it was, reminds me of Talladega Nights. It's like, I like my Jesus to be fancy on top and party on the bottom, right? So as long as they think you're dressed professionally, it doesn't matter. But you want to show up confident, you want to show up excited, you want to show up interested. So make sure you get a good night's sleep the night before, whether you're doing it virtual or in person,
Yeah.
right? And show enthusiasm. It's one of the biggest things that I hear. And this a lot of times translates in the type of questions that you ask, right? We all know the standard questions that a lot of job seekers will ask. And if you come in there and you're the one that's trying to dig more into the culture and the company's mission and the company's values, you're going to stand out, right? I would, unless they're talking about the growth plan already, I would stay away from asking questions around, at least in the first interview, about what does my growth trajectory look like? Because you could scare them off with that if they think that you're going to do this and then the next opportunity you're just going to run, right? So feel them out first on that, but I wouldn't lead with that kind of question. What I would do is probably talk to the recruiter about it before you even get to the interview, because the recruiter's going to know. My clients are very transparent, like, hey, we want this person to come in and for 6 months to do this. And then once they've proven that they can do that, then these other opportunities start to open up. Right. So be careful with the too ambitious type of questions. Right. Because there is such a thing as, whoa, they're overly ambitious, right? It's one thing if you're going, hey, I'm a little bit under the years of experience that you'd like to see, but I have all the enthusiasm to learn the skills that I need. And I say this because I literally placed a tax accountant 2 weeks ago. My client ideally wanted like 3 years of tax experience. The person we ended up hiring had 1. But she had all the experience, all the enthusiasm, the drive, and the want to learn everything and be the best tax accountant that she could be. She was just on the low end of the experience, and it got her the job because she showed what he was looking for. Now, a lot of places right now, that's not going to get you there. It's unfortunate. Right now, the other thing, I'm jumping around here a little bit on you, Lynn. Sorry. The other thing to be aware of right now, as far as the market itself, is that companies want you to check all 5 million of their boxes. And if you don't check one, they're not going to offer you.
You know what bugs me? I wish every job description had must-haves, nice-to-haves. Like, separate them so at least people know.
No, they should. I
then
agree.
that will not waste time for all parties concerned.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir on that one, Lynn. I could not agree with you more. Segment the job description. And if they, in that vein too, what I would say is, if you see a job posting with a list of like 20 required qualifications, don't even waste your time. Because they're asking for far too much. There should be a total of like 6 bullet points in that required qualification section at most. And if not, they just threw a whole bunch out there because they just want to see what might stick. But what that tells me when companies do that is they didn't do their work on the front end to fully determine what person that they actually needed to hire, right? They knew, hey, we have a gap to fill. This person sounds like the right one. Here, put this whole big dense job description out there, and once we get candidates in, then we'll start to narrow it down from there. But I talk about this all the time, and it drives me insane when companies do this. I'm like, nope. The reason that the interview process is so long and lengthy is because they get into it without having a 100% clear picture of who it is that they need.
So Sarah asked, what about virtual interviews? I got a little tip for you all on that. If you get an index card and it cut a hole out of the middle, and then you get your black Sharpie and put bullet points around So you've got your Star Story reminders on that card, then you're always looking at the camera. How about that?
I've encouraged people to do the same.
Yeah.
Not
Yep.
exactly that, but something very similar. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So Alex is asking, during an interview process, to what extent can a candidate ask for feedback on how they're doing? For example, can a candidate ask for feedback after an interview? What about if the candidate didn't get the position?
Yeah. You can always ask. But companies are very loath to give it because they're scared it can get them in trouble, right? So I rail against this, yet I understand why companies do what they do around feedback. And it's because, frankly, we live in a sue happy society, right? So if I gave you direct feedback about why I didn't hire you and you took offense to it, you could decide to sue me. As a company, do I even want to take that chance, right? So my personal philosophy and what I will do if I ever am involved with any of you, and I encourage recruiters to do the same thing, is to give broad themed feedback, right? So, hey, we were looking for a coder at this level and you fell short, right? So I give that themed feedback because I've been on that side of the table and thought I did really well, and all I got was, sorry, you didn't get hired. Cool, but as a job seeker, how am I supposed to learn how to do better and what I messed up if you don't tell me anything, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of this, it's really a catch-22, and I wish companies would at least give that themed feedback of, hey, you didn't reach the level of this and this and this that we needed you to reach, so that you have something, right? Hey, your answers to some of the behavioral questions they didn't hit the mark, right? So that you know that, hey, my answers around culture and personality things need some work. The answers that I gave weren't clear enough, and they weren't the right ones, right? Hey, I need to go work on my coding skills, or I need to go work on this, that, or the other thing, right? Because you got that themed feedback. So I fully, trust me, I fully understand the frustration with spending all of this time interviewing and then not understanding why you didn't get it. But I'm, from my perspective and living on this side for 9 years, they're scared of getting complaints and EEOC things and all of this other stuff because we're so happy to we're so easy to do that in the world that we live in now. So I know that's why that is what it is, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating.
So a lot of people are mentioning, ghost jobs and scam jobs and whatnot. So, in case you guys aren't aware, if there is a remote job, obviously it goes across many states and cities and jurisdictions and whatnot. So if you go to greatcareers.org and in the top right, you type the word remote, you will see an article that I wrote. And I included an article from an employment attorney, a friend of mine in New Jersey, who further explains it. So you have to not only read what I wrote, but you have to also hit the link up. People have to post salaries for remote jobs, just so you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. Let's talk about skills and qualifications. We're going to run out of time here. Okay. What do you think are the most sought after skills and qualifications in candidates right now?
My thing always, and this ties back to something that I said earlier, is that you can have all of the skills and qualifications in the world, but if you're not a culture fit, it doesn't matter, right? So that's the first thing, is that if you're looking for a good reputable company, they're looking for a particular type of person that's going to fit in their culture, and you're not going to fit them all, right? We just can't. That doesn't mean you shouldn't fit most, but I'd lock down the culture and the personality and the scenario questions first, because those are the things that I can't teach you, right? Those are the things that I cannot train.
Right.
Either you fit my culture or you don't. And there's no gray area there, right? Now, as far as hard skills and experience, if that job description says 5+ and you have 4.5, absolutely I'd apply, right? But if it's asking for 5+ and you have 2.5, nope, just keep moving. Because especially in this market, you're not even going to get looked at, right? So it was such a broad question, but I think my answer is what I just said, right? When you're reviewing job descriptions and deciding whether or not to apply, do you realistically have within a year of the number of years of experience that they're asking for in each of those particular categories, right? A lot of times they just want the only years number is going to be how many years of experience do you have with this job in this industry, right? Well, you either have or you don't have that. And if you don't have that, then none of the rest of the things that you may or may not have matter after that, because that is the first and foremost thing that they want, right? So if you have that, then keep reading. But if you don't have that first years of experience marker, if you're not, again, within a year of that number, just move on. Because the chances of them moving forward with you are slim and none.
Yeah. Linda made a comment about recommending a thank you letter after you were told you weren't moving forward. I absolutely agree with that. There's been a situation where you might have been number 2 and the number 1 maybe didn't work out in the first 90 days. And if you show that you can take rejection in a good way, you never know. You could get called back, or there may be another opportunity that opens up in the future. So yeah, always keep your options open and tell them that you were very, excited and enthused about the company and the role and all that.
Yeah. Never. I've seen this happen. Never go the opposite direction.
No.
Do not lash out at the recruiter. Do not lash out at the hiring manager, because they will blacklist you from their company.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then you don't have a chance at any job, no matter which one it is, no matter when it comes up, because they're going to put a note in their ATS and go, this candidate is untouchable. Like they're unhireable. So it's okay to be upset, but don't communicate it back to the company. Just do what Lynn said. Say thank you. It was great, getting to meet you all, learn more about your company and the opportunity. I'd love to be kept in mind for future roles that I might be a great fit for.
Yeah.
Because they may.
So, before we get to your job openings, I want to mention, I'm going to do a little commercial break here. So this particular event is sponsored by 2 entities. One is Great Careers Network, which is greatcareers.org. And if you go to the events page, you will see that we run about 18 to 25 events a month. And the majority of them are online. And I do post affiliate events, typically ones that I'm speaking at, but I also posted an affiliate event that I'm attending in New York City on Monday. So if you want to go to a LinkedIn Local Live on Monday, I will be there. Now, normally this particular event runs on the third Thursday of the month, but I was driving back from Canada because I was with Bobby Umar at a LinkedIn Local in Toronto on Wednesday night. So we will return to the third Thursday in June at 12:30. But speaking of Bobby Umar, he's the founder of the Thought Leadership Branding Club, and that is the other entity that sponsors this particular event. So if you go to the events page there, you will see, lots of events coming up. It definitely is a wonderful community that supports entrepreneurs. But there's so many different entrepreneurs that are running and career coaches that are running events that support job seekers. So check out the events page on the Thought Leadership Branding Club, and also the events page on greatcareers.org. You'll find lots of great stuff. Okay, so what kind of jobs are you currently trying to fill? Where are they located? And do you have any remote jobs?
Yeah. I have 3 right now, maybe a 4th coming. The first one, and none of them are remote, unfortunately. They all are in person, all on the East Coast. The first one that I'm looking for is a sales rep for a IT MSP company in the Boston area. You don't have to have IT sales experience to have it or to be qualified for this job. Just some sales experience and the drive and the ambitiousness to learn the space and go sell it. So that's the first one. The second one, I need an associate attorney, also in the Boston area, as a matter of fact. Can be as low as you pass the bar and have your law license and you're ready to go to work. That's the second one. The third one, I am looking for basically a dental treatment coordinator in Providence, Rhode Island. So they need somebody that's got about 5 years of experience dealing with dental insurance and the ins and outs of that, the verifications, the reimbursements, all of the fun in and outs that go along with insurance. And then the other one is super duper niche. For now, they want them in Oklahoma City, but it's a fire protection superintendent. So going to job sites to make sure that all of the wiring for the fire protection is set up properly so that, God forbid a fire breaks out, the fire suppression system will work. So those are the 4 that I am working on right now.
And that's so funny. Nothing's in Seattle.
No, no. I know way more people on the East Coast than I do on the West Coast.
How about that? So, maybe none of these jobs fit you. Maybe you know somebody, where the job might fit. So, how do people go about getting the job descriptions? What's the best place to look?
Yeah. So I will have all of them. They're all super brand new, actually. So I need to get them up on my website. So they'll be up on my website soon. Or send me a connection request on LinkedIn. Tell me which one you're interested in, and I'll send it right back to you. That's probably the easiest.
All right.
We'll cut.
Well, I guess that answered one of my questions. Do you want people to reach out to you and connect on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. Always welcome. I've had 3 or 4 of you do it already since we've been on the phone.
Right.
So please, I'm not aggressive. I don't bite. So if you want to connect and send me a request, if there's something specific that I can help with, please let me know that. I will prioritize those if I know what what it is that you're after from me. So,
Okay. Sorry. I think I just switched things here. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Hold on. I have a terrible cough. So, if you have a candidate that you've submitted for a position, what tips can you offer job seekers for follow-up with you after an interview?
yeah, so my standard is it's a two-way street, right? So if I haven't got back to you, right? So let's say I give you a timeline of, give me 3 days. And on the third day you haven't heard from me, send me an email. Ask me what's going on. You never have to wait for me to get back to you. I'm pretty good at getting back to you, even if it's, hey, my client hasn't got back to me yet. Give me a couple more days. We have a meeting scheduled for Friday, right? And we're going to talk about all this stuff. But it's weird because candidates often seem intimidated to reach back out to the recruiter for updates. But it's a two-way street. Even if the recruiter doesn't say it and you're going, man, it's been a week and I haven't heard anything, email your recruiter. They should email you back. Lynn must be over
Gotcha.
there.
Sorry. I was I was trying to put a note in for Merrill to see if he could post the link for anybody who would like to come and join us on stage in case they have any questions that they want to ask live. Since my links don't appear to work, maybe Merrill can put it in there. All right, hang on one second. Why? My screen is going wonky right here. I don't know why. I don't want to hide chat overlay. Let me try a different view. Let's try that. Oh my goodness. I don't know what's going on. My screen just went, it froze for me to put something on here. You can still hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. Did Merrill put a link in there yet? By any chance? I can't scroll the chat right now. I don't know why. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. All right.
There it is.
So yes, Merrill put it in. There's the studio restream link. Is there anybody that would like to come up on stage and ask questions before we wrap? And while we wait to see if anybody wants to come up, is there anything I've not asked that you'd like to share?
Probably the biggest thing is, with this market that we're in, I have a new service offering that's targeted at job seekers to give them a action plan for how to go about finding their new job in this market. So that is available. I've been posting about it about twice a week. So check out my LinkedIn feed if that is something that you're interested in. I'd love to have you in one of those calls. My heart, for as long as I can remember, has been to help people in whatever way that I can. And with people being laid off every day, it's only getting worse, right? So right now, I'm kind of focused on helping job seekers be the best equipped and understand this market, because it is the nuttiest market that we've seen probably since 2010.
Since 2010. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That was an interesting
8, 9,
time
10,
too.
that 3-year period there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It is pretty wild. Pretty wild. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody else. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Jennifer. Okay, so Jennifer, let's see. We'll let you on there. All right. So Jennifer, you can either stay on camera or you can click the camera and be off camera. Do you want to say something, Jennifer?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me okay? Because
Yep.
Okay. In my career transition, I'm getting my certificate to become a paralegal, which I will have my certificate at the end of June after my last class. So I'm trying not to fall into that catch-22 of I need a job to get experience, but I don't have experience because it's a new career for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And you're asking how to go about it?
Well, just any tips would be appreciated.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is right now there's not a ton of entry-level jobs that are available. Companies, they're posting their entry-level jobs. I say that in air quotes, but you can't see me. Requiring 2+ years of experience. Well, that's not entry level, right? So that's the first thing that's happening. And the second thing is it's just really, really hard to career pivot right now, to take transferable skills from one, job lane that transfer well to another one. The companies, they're just not buying the transfer of skills from one career set to another. They want somebody, like I said, if you don't check all 5 million of their boxes right now, they're not going to hire you. They're being so super strategic because during the pandemic, if they had money to spend, they were spending it like drunken sailors, right? And now they've gone the exact opposite direction, and they don't want to spend a penny more than they have to. And if they don't have to spend that penny, they're not going to. Right. So the only way that they're offering people right now, again, is you check all my boxes and probably 10 more than they want you to check, right? To make sure that their expenses are ones that they can absolutely justify. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying don't keep doing what you're doing. But the way that you're going to get in is to network with somebody, right? So start figuring out what attorneys that you know or people that know attorneys that will keep their ear to the ground for you for anything entry level, because that's where you're going to have to go.
Okay.
And it's going to be your best way in. It's probably your only way in.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for asking the question.
All right. We're going to have Sajith Kumar come up. How you doing? Jennifer, did you have any more questions or was that it?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Matt,
All right.
Great conversation so far. I just had a question. This is a dilemma that most of the job seekers have. We always talk about personal branding. You need to be out there more in front of the hiring managers and all those things, right? So one challenge that I see is the job seekers being more active on LinkedIn, whereas the hiring managers are not as active, right? Recruiters. So let's say there are a lot of job seekers who are posting content also that is related to their personal brand. Are recruiters searching that? Because now it's coming through applications, right? There are so many applications in a particular role that there's very less time for the recruiter to go out and search. There are certain recruiters who still 30-40% of the time they would do an active search, but right now most of the recruiters are just looking at all the applications that are coming in. So when you look at personal branding as such, right? So that is one challenge I'm seeing, where candidates are doing a lot of personal branding, but they're not able to get the reach because the hiring managers or the recruiters are not actively there. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's twofold, right? I would get in as many recruiters networks as you can. So, you know, if you're looking for a job in tech, I would spend all 200 connection requests every week sending them to tech recruiters, right? Because then they can see what you're posting, right? I will say I'm in a lot of groups on LinkedIn, and I'd never look at any of them. So it doesn't matter what you're posting in the group. But also, you know, there's a lot of, most of the hiring right now is happening by small to mid-sized companies, right? So the personal branding isn't for naught, but it has to be one of those where you've done it long enough and consistent enough that people notice, right? So it's not a, you know, the personal brand thing is not an overnight game changer. It's a months long process, because if I'm a 15 person company and I need to add a developer to my team, and I am responsible for going and finding said candidate that I want to hire, where am I going first? I'm going to my network, right? I'm going to people that I know, right? So if I'm a hiring manager who's active in LinkedIn groups of developers because I enjoy that, and you're the person who for the last 6 months has kept adding value and commenting whether you're creating your own content or not, and I've kept seeing your name, and all of a sudden I need a developer, you're likely to be top of mind. Even if I don't know your name, I'm going to go to that group and I'm going to start looking and try to hunt you down and go, oh, maybe this guy is the right fit, right? Does that make sense, Sajith?
Yeah, definitely it does. So yeah, I completely agree. It's a long-term strategy. It's not something that the things would never work overnight. And also, like you said, it has to be consistent, right? I've seen Lynn and all those people, the coaches, be regularly on a particular topic and constantly give content or share content that is very relevant, right? And that is how you build a brand. Yeah, the misconception is that you create a viral post and then people start reaching out to you or you get jobs, right? So that is, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for the question.
All right, let's see. I don't see anybody else coming up here right now. But there was a question from Lori. What experience does Matt have with helping neurodivergent job seekers? So before you answer that, Matt, Lori, if you go to greatcareers.org and you type in the top right in the little search bar, neurodiversity or autism or ADHD, you will find a myriad of articles that I've written on those topics, mainly because I am the mother of an AUDHD adult child. So there's lots of tips for LinkedIn and more. So Matt, do you have any experience in dealing with neurodivergent job seekers?
Yeah, pretty much every day.
Okay.
They're a constant in my world, so I'm very familiar with, you know, people needing different things and doing, you know, doing interviews different ways and things of that, and guiding and directing my clients on, hey, we're going to have to do this one a little bit different, right? Because it's not a one size fits all. So
Right.
Absolutely plenty of experience with that. I work with people on all ends of any spectrum that exists. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's nice that you say, hey, we have to do things a little differently, because yeah, not everybody can give that eye contact, or I don't know. There's all kinds of things. It's different for every person. So, you know, it's nice that you say that. You know, that you have to tell the employers that, because, you know, we have people that have gifts, all kinds of gifts, even with, any particular diagnosis, they still have gifts and can do jobs and do them well or
Yep.
super well.
Yep.
I know my daughter has
100%.
a photographic memory, so yeah, it's crazy. All right. Anything else you want to add on, Matt?
If there is anything that I can do to be of service to you and help you, whether that's job seeker or you need to hire someone and you need a resource, please don't be shy. Reach out to me. And I'd just love to help in whatever way that I can.
All right. Well, thanks so much. Again, visit greatcareers.org and the events page and Thought Leadership Branding Club Thought Leadership Branding.club and the events page, and you'll find lots of great events coming up. I know in about an hour and change from now, I will be doing how to gain customers with the LinkedIn company page. You may think, oh, well, I'm a job seeker. I don't need a LinkedIn company page. Well, it actually could be a filler for you if you don't have a present job on LinkedIn. So don't discount thinking that it's just for entrepreneurs. That's my 2 cents worth. All right. I'm going to wrap up. Thank you all for coming. And thanks for Jennifer and Sajith Kumar for jumping on stage with us. And thanks to Matt for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Lynn. It was a pleasure.
All right. You take care.
You too.
Is restreamed on my LinkedIn profile and also on the Great Careers Facebook page and also on the Great Careers YouTube. So I think I'm going to do this on Restream again next month rather than go back to Clubhouse. So, somebody did ask, do you have to have an account? No, you just have to click on the link to join a Restream. But if you want to create an event, you have to, I think there's a free account, but there's limitations. But I have a paid account. So check out their Black Friday special in November. All right. Thanks so much, Matt. Have a great day.
Lynn.